Hello, everyone, and welcome to MeowMix, the Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Steven.
My name is Jerry.
All right, Jerry, that fourth time we finally got it started.
Ah,
We're
we're
good to go,
we're great now. Look at this. Like we never took a break.
like we never left. Yep. Like riding a unicycle if all you've done is ridden bikes before. We're back, and training camp is mere hours away from beginning. The football season is here. We are on the cusp. The Panthers totally new, reinvigorated, ready to go. The fans are excited. I'm seeing predictions of up to 8 wins.
Who's living in fantasy world?
Right. Uh, well, you never know. You never know. I saw something. Someone said, you know, the NFC South sneaky winnable for the Panthers.
It really is. I hate saying that because I've said that every year in the past like six.
Mm-hmm.
But but
Yep.
with that said, it is sneaky winnable. Even though I'm not 100% sure, it's still winnable for the Panthers.
Right. It's sneaky winnable, but for the Panthers, maybe not this year. Um, but who knows? Football is funny, and teams go from worst to first all the time. Maybe this Dave Canales is going to be just a genius and get Bryce on the right path. Maybe the offseason moves were perfect, and
Yeah.
who knows? I mean, who knows?
Maybe the Falcons. I mean, I think the Falcons are the favorite right now, so I would say maybe the Falcons, coaching staff has a Frank Reich situation. You never know.
And they've got Kirk Cousins, who getting a little long in the tooth,
Mm-hmm.
master of the choke. So who knows? But we're here to talk about training camp, and we're gonna go over some battles, some of our favorite training camp battles. I was kind of looking at the depth chart earlier, and honestly, I feels like there aren't as many battles this year as years past, which I think is a good thing, right? I mean, some of these spots that we've talked about in the past seem pretty. I don't know if I would say solidified, but there definitely is a heavy favorite in a lot of these
Yes.
spots. So I'm excited to talk about some of those. We're also going to give out some. We're going to predict our training camp awards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Mm-hmm.
some pre-training camp awards, and we'll see if those go through. And then we're going to try a little something different, do a little stock
I
exchange
thought you were about to
action.
say priests earlier, like religion, and I
Priest?
was like, where's he going with this?
Nope, nope, nope. Pray to the Panthers gods. Something happens here, but all right, let's kind of get into. Let's just jump right in, Jerry.
Yeah.
Training camp battles. Let's
Yeah.
go.
The first one I have up here, I think it's Xavier Leggett versus the field, to be honest. I mean, Leggett's on the roster, no doubt about it. But I think for that third main target option, he's already kind of penciled in there. But you got to think Jonathan Mingo's a second round pick from last year. Hi. Thomas, TMJ, still a second round pick on the. He
Hanging on
has,
for dear life. Yep.
yeah. And then you have like Smith Marset, who
Mhm.
I think played that role pretty well last year. And so
For
I
what he
just,
was asked to do. Yeah.
yeah. So he needs to step up, in my opinion. I know I put it as a battle, but he needs to kind of show that he was the right choice. The other guys, hopefully Jonathan Mingo could still make something happen. But
Yeah, I think Leggett or Leggett, like how does he pronounce it again?
Leggett.
Leggett. Okay, I think Leggett is kind of penciled in right now as that third wide receiver. Obviously, you've got Deontay Johnson, wide
Yes.
receiver one, Thielen, wide receiver two. Those guys probably locked into those spots,
Yeah,
unless Thielen just falls off an age cliff, which I don't expect.
and you
Uh,
never know. They could put Leggett out there as the number two, but keep Thielen more of a slot slash,
mhm.
occasional guy. I mean, just cut back on his snaps because he is an older wide receiver, and he took a lot of wear and tear last year.
I mean, realistically, Deontay Johnson could play the slot role. Like you could mix and match these guys around a little
Hmm.
bit. They all have different strengths. Deontay Johnson's so fast and such a precise route runner. He could do damage anywhere. So I think that gives him a lot of flexibility. But yeah, I was thinking kind of that Jonathan Mingo, Leggett are going to be battling for that third spot. Leggett, he's a rookie, and rookies aren't guaranteed anything, nor should they be, right? You're going to have to come in and earn your spot. But yeah, that Terrace Marshall, Amir Smith Marset kind of battling for that wide receiver four. And then there's some other guys. David Moore, is on the team. He's going to be battling for a roster spot. So I think those four guys there, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that wide receiver 3, 4 spot.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was sitting at, and that's kind of why I put it on this docket. I know Legette's on the roster. I know Legette's probably going to get the spot, but there's an outside chance that Jonathan Mingo lights it up. There's an outside
Mm-hmm.
chance that Smith Marset and Bryce really understand how each other plays. That's huge.
TMJ could come in and look like a different guy. I hope that happens. Like I hope TMJ has spent his entire offseason getting stronger, faster, working on his route running, working on his catching.
I,
That would be amazing if he came in and earned that spot.
yeah, I mean, he had the physical tools when he was drafted.
Yeah,
It was that injury that dropped him, and then he just never seemed to really catch on. And let's be honest, he has not had the best coaching staffs here to really improve him.
true. True. And let's also be honest when we're thinking about the future of this team. Deontay Johnson here on a 1-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Thielen, probably his last year here, I would imagine. I think he's got 2 more years on his deal, but realistically, if the Panthers aren't going anywhere, he's gone. So we might actually need TMJ and Jonathan Mingo to play bigger roles in the coming seasons. So let's hope that they can get there. But I mean, if I had to make a prediction now, I would say Leggett probably earns that spot just based on what they did to go up and get him. The what you've heard in the mini camps and things like that, rookie camps so far, he's looked really good and kind of ready. So that would be my prediction. But I will be happy to be wrong and still have him, even as a wide receiver 4, but growing, right?
Yeah, you feel like, oh, that was a great pick. That was or maybe not great, because if he's not, he didn't
Yeah.
earn it. He's not a great.
I
But
mean, another surprise is he could earn the wide receiver 2 spot, right?
yeah, and just knock down Thielen to that
Yeah.
slot role in a healthy way.
Right. Yeah. I'm not hoping that Leggett is not good enough to earn the wide
Yeah,
receiver
no,
3
I
spot.
understood what
Don't
you
get me
meant.
wrong there. Yeah. Well, for the YouTube commenters, I want to make sure you guys understand that. Like, I want him to be as good as possible. But if he is good and then the other guys show that they also are good, that would be even better. All right. So we're both going with Leggett there. Next battle here, I think you put this in just for me, Jerry.
I did.
The kicker battle, Eddie P versus the thicker kicker. Uh, we kind of talked about this in our last podcast. By the way, sorry to the actual podcast listeners. That episode that we did last week did not make it onto the feed due to some technical issues, some recording problems that we had.
You
This
can't
one,
pirate good software and have it boot up
right?
regularly.
Yeah, we're just gonna blame CrowdStrike on this one. Um, might as well, right?
Might
Everybody
as
has to.
well.
So apologies to that. If you want to hear that podcast, go check out YouTube. It is on there. This one you're hearing it now, so it obviously made the feed, unless it didn't. But Eddie P, we did predict that Eddie P would probably win that competition. I'm zagging, man. I'm going with a thicker kicker. I think he's gonna beat out Eddie P. I think Eddie P has been a little. He's had a bit of a rough off season in terms of I think he wanted some more money. I think some things were happening that the team probably doesn't like, and I think the thicker kicker is going to come in and put on a show, and he's going to win that spot.
Okay.
And I do know his name. It's Harrison Mevis. So I just like calling him thicker kicker because he's
It's
a big dude.
I could
Like,
not
he's a
remember
big-
his name at first when I was putting that in, and I was like, you know what, thicker kicker just works anyways. Why are we
Yeah.
even trying to joke about this?
Right. So yeah, I'm going with Harrison. I think he's going to beat out Eddie P. I think we've seen the last of Eddie P as a Panther
Oh
outside
man.
outside of preseason.
Well, yeah. I mean, no one's gonna. Everyone's gonna be here during preseason.
Right.
All
All
right.
right, what we got next?
Tight end. Another one of your favorite positions.
Yes. Well,
Maybe your
yeah, my
favorite.
favorite one to complain about.
We have Tommy Trimble. He's penciled in as a starter from all accounts.
Hmm.
Ian Thomas, big payday for something. I still haven't figured that one out. And Jatavion Sanders, who we just drafted. We really liked him and did our preview on him. So take it
Yeah.
away, tight end guru.
Well, I think again, I will say that I think this is the last we'll see of Ian Thomas this preseason. I think he will be gone by the time cuts roll around. I I'm
Did
really
he
torn.
did he reach structure or not? If he restructured, I don't think they could just cut him.
I'm not sure, but I hope he didn't because I think he should be cut. I don't remember hearing that he restructured, but he wasn't making a ton of money to begin with. Either way, I think if he doesn't get cut, he's going to be buried on the inactive list all season long. I'm going back and forth between whether I think Sanders is going to be good enough right out the gate with everything a tight end needs to do to beat out Tommy Trimble for that TE1. Tommy Trimble, he came out of college being praised as a great blocker. I don't think we've seen the great blocker in him yet. I hope that they can unlock that in him this
Mm-hmm.
year. Sanders obviously has a much higher upside when it comes to a receiving threat. He's much more ready than Trimble was coming out of college at that skill, right? So I think Sanders is going to play a lot. But I think come the start of the season, it's probably going to be Tommy Trimble starting with Sanders playing a lot, playing, 40, 50% of the snaps just as a receiving threat. But I'm really, really excited to watch Sanders in preseason and see, if he can make some things happen. He'll be playing a lot. That's the good thing about a fourth round rookie in the preseason. If you're excited to watch him, you're going to get to watch him.
Yeah, I think 100% what you just said. I think Tommy Trimble offers them blocking and a receiving threat, while Ian Thomas doesn't offer much of anything in the receiving game, it seems like.
Hmm.
So, and Tommy Trimble kind of showed a little bit last year. He did a couple flashes.
Yeah,
So I could see him winning the job, bringing Sanders in on specialty plays in the regular season. Again, in preseason, you're going to see a lot of him, I think.
sure. Yeah.
So we'll see how he
Probably a lot of
does.
both of them, honestly. You'll probably see a lot of all three of them, but I think they're gonna, I hope, focus on giving Sanders a lot of those Ian Thomas, snaps in the preseason just to see what he is because that guy's got a ton of potential. And again,
Mm-hmm.
like you mentioned, he was somebody we talked about in the preseason, somebody we were both excited about. So I hope we do get to see a lot of him, and I hope that he pushes Tommy for that number one spot. All right,
Yeah.
moving along. We know that J.C. Horn is penciled in as the
Yeah, well, let's not even
CB1,
say penciled.
right?
He's in marker as long as
Well,
he's healthy.
he's in pencil because of the health issues, right? Like, yes, as he is certainly in sharpied in as number one corner, but that number two corner spot. All right, so Dane Jackson was signed in the offseason,
Mm-hmm.
right? That, not a small deal, not a huge deal, but certainly a deal that makes you think he's going to be the guy starting opposite J.C. Horn. But I don't think it's not nearly as pinned in as J.C. Horn, right? Like I think there's a battle there.
Oh, definitely a battle. And the worst part is, it's it's the field again. This isn't even a joke. Dane Jackson, Lamar Jackson, Troy Hill. I think Troy Hill has an actual shot, but he's a better slot guy. Uh, DiCaprio Boodle. He played well last
Hmm.
year in his scheme. And Evero's. I can't speak. I almost said Steve Wilkes. Throwing it
Nope,
back.
nope. Evera. Yeah, you got Deshaun Jameson, Jamie Robinson from last year.
I,
I mean, this. I think this could go a lot of different ways, right?
yeah, I don't think Jamie Robinson's going to play corner. I think he's sticking at safety, though.
Probably. You're probably right. I was reading the wrong line.
Just
Yeah,
want to call that out,
yeah,
but
yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Good call. Um, I don't think Lamar Jackson's probably going to make the team. Um, I think it's quite possible that the guy starting opposite J.C. Horn is not on the roster.
I hope so. To be honest with you, the rest of the I don't feel comfortable with Dane Jackson, Troy Hill, DiCaprio Boodle, Lamar Jackson, or Deshaun Jameson starting a significant amount of games.
It's certainly not a deep. This is probably our weakest
Mm-hmm.
position, uh, uh, certainly on defense, I would imagine. Um, and if JC goes down, which I don't want to
Happens
speak it
every
into
year.
existence, but history says he's probably going to miss some games. You're really in trouble at that point, right? I mean, he can shut down one side of the field while he's out there, which is a huge boon, right? But we don't have Brian Burns this year. That pass rush probably not going to be as scary as you would hope it would be. So that secondary is going to have to be good. I'm kind of surprised that they haven't signed a Stephon Gilmore, right?
I
I mean,
hope they do, man, because
all
I am
signs were
worried.
pointing that direction, and it just hasn't happened.
Uh, Who knows? I mean, maybe he doesn't want to come here. I don't think that because it seems like he still
Yeah,
really likes this place, but
it does. It does feel like it should happen, but and there are other corners out there as well on the free agent market that
mm-hmm.
are there will be corners that get cut. Like I just think that if we're rolling in with JC and Dane Jackson as our starting corners, I don't hate that, but I hate everything behind it. Right? One of those guys goes down, we're in major trouble immediately.
Yeah.
They've got Dane Jackson as your backup. I feel pretty good about. You got Dane Jackson and Troy Hill as your backups. I feel a lot better about that than DiCaprio, Boodle, and Deshaun Jameson as your backups, right? Like that
Yeah.
feels different.
It's
That feels
scary, to
different.
be honest
Yeah.
with you. It is very scary if he is still, if that is the way it's sitting at.
I do kind of like Dane Jackson. And I think that he could be serviceable. So again, I'm not I don't hate it if he is a starter, but they've got to do something to shore that those backups up because I'm really scared that when JC goes down, things are going to be really rough.
Yeah.
Because again, you just don't have the pass rush. You had a great pass rush. It makes me feel very different, but you're not going to have a great pass rush this year.
No, not at all. I mean, I hate saying this, but it's almost a guarantee that the defense is going to take a step back. We just have to be prepared for it as fans because
Yeah.
you
And this defense was better than its talent last year. It's going to have to be way better than its talent this year.
mm-hmm.
But asking Evero to turn this group into, a top 15 defense is a tall task.
Yes,
And
it
if he
is.
does, he probably will have earned himself a
Head
head
coaching
coaching
job.
role next
Yeah.
year. Yep.
And sticking with the defensive side, you just mentioned it, edge rusher.
Yep.
1 and 2 are pretty locked up with DJ Wonham and Jadavion
Yeah.
Clowney.
Big signings.
Yeah.
Yep.
But the third spot, I think, is where it's gonna be interesting. It's the field. Former first round pick Clavion Chason has never really produced at all. Um, I'll be interested if Evero could get anything out of him like that his talent had. DJ Johnson, the Teppers loved him. Uh, no one
Yeah.
else but DJ Johnson. Uh, Amari Barno, this is his third year now. He has that lightning in a bottle's quickness, and he showed some smarts in previous years.
Yeah.
But something, the
Just
coaches
not.
see something in practice that they can't rely on him. So
Yeah. He certainly has not proven to be an every down or even
a consistent,
reliable, yeah,
yeah,
consistent starter or just edge rusher,
yeah.
period.
Iku Liata, he played a little bit for us last year. Again, it's guys that are familiar with Evero
Hmm.
and Evero's familiar, and Tay Davis. Hey, I'm begging one of you. I would love for DJ Johnson or Barno to step up and become something.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping one or two of these guys has a good, solid third rotational guy. You know,
Oh,
ends the
yeah.
season with 4 sacks. A few
Right.
pressures.
That's all we're asking.
The 3, 4
That's all we're
sacks. Come
asking for.
on.
I mean, 4 sacks might be number 2 on the team, honestly. Yeah, I'm really worried about this edge rushing unit as a whole, even with the starters. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney is pretty consistent, but he's not going to get you 12 sacks, right?
No.
He's going to get you 7 to 9 sacks, basically. Wanham had a career year last year, but are you going to count on that again?
I mean,
Like,
they are.
can you count on that? They
They are.
are, they are. But
Eh,
as fans, and we're projecting here, I mean, I would say 5, 6 sacks. Again, a lot of it comes down to the secondary too, because you got to keep that quarterback back there.
Yeah.
So it's all going to have to come together. But I mean, Chase on, he's only 24.
Oh no.
He hasn't shown anything, but maybe you get him in the right system with the right coaching staff, the right guys around him. Who knows? DJ Johnson, same thing. Like, who knows if he is able to unlock something this year? He does have the same coaching staff as he had last year, and he couldn't do anything last year, so I don't have high hopes. Barno, kind of the same thing. Like, he's
mm,
been here, hasn't been working out for him. So, this is just a group that I'm really worried about, but I'm hoping, as you said, one of these guys steps up in training camp and really starts to show something, because this is a position of dire need. We
need.
gotta get some production out of these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now flipping back to the offense,
Yeah.
running back. Um,
Yeah.
I put this on here because I'm honestly up in the air on this, just because I think Chuba's got the starting job without a real question. I think if Brooks was healthy, I think it would be a question. But I think Miles Sanders proved that last year Hubbard was better, just point blank.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. No, I did want to talk running back, because I think this actually is a battle. I don't think Chuba has necessarily locked down that spot at all. I think it easily could be Jonathan Brooks if he comes in, and I know he's starting the training camp off on the, it's not the pup list, but it's like whatever, the injured list or whatever they're calling it. Um, but he'll probably be knocked off of that thing in a couple of weeks. I would imagine he plays. He might play one preseason game, a few snaps. I'm not sure, but I don't think that he's one of those guys that's going to need to prove it in the preseason, right? I think he's one of those guys that's just going to show you when he's healthy, he's going to be ready. Um, Odds are he will not start the season as the starter. They're going to work him back in, and they should. He's still a rookie and coming off an ACL, so they really shouldn't be trying to give him, 15 to 20 snaps a game immediately. But I do think that Miles Sanders has an opportunity to earn that starting spot back. I think if he can look really good in the preseason, if he can look really good in training camp, if he comes in and he shows, hey, last year was a fluke, just a product of a terrible system, a terrible coaching staff, just a terrible situation altogether. But I'm still that Miles Sanders that was really productive in Philadelphia. You've got the offensive line has been beefed up, right? The blocking scheme, I'm getting like this entire offseason with no drama. Like, we're coming in and we're ready to go. I think that Miles Sanders has a good opportunity. I think this is wide open.
I don't think it's that wide open. I think Chuba has it not. I think he has a good lead. I agree that if Miles Sanders comes in, looks fantastic, understands the new offense like he understood the Eagles offense, yeah, he can win it. I also think Brooks, if he gets in to the game or into the training camp in time, I think he can too. I think he can
Yeah.
earn it. But I think the way it's shaping up is it's Chuba for the first quarter of the season, and then I think Brooks has a chance. But I could be wrong. Like I said, I think
Yeah,
Miles Sanders does have an outside chance. I think if he shows up, I mean, Rashard Penny, I don't see much, but I think has he been with which he was with
he was with
Canales in Seattle.
Canales. Yep,
Yeah, so
yep.
maybe Canales
I,
likes
I
him.
again, I don't think I agree with you. I don't think Penny is a threat to start. Um, but I think you're selling Miles Sanders a little bit short. I really think last year's chaos was a big factor in how bad he was, and I think last year's offensive line it was a big factor in how bad everybody was on offense. I think you might see a different Miles Sanders this year,
I
and
I hope so.
everyone's gonna be surprised. I hope in a good way that he kind of gets back to that form that got him that big contract here.
Yeah,
So that is a camp battle that I'm really excited to watch for sure.
me too.
Yep.
Um, we'll do the training camp. We call it awards, but predictions. Or I wrote
Yeah.
awards, but I
Predict
meant
We're predicting the
predictions.
awards. Yeah.
Yeah.
So every year we do, the camp surprise, the MVP of camp, the LVP of camp, things like that. So we're not going to go through all of those potentialities here, but let's just kind of go with the guy that we think is going to stand out in camp, the guy that we think might suck in camp. Um, I'll start off with the guy that I think is going to stand out in camp, and I already mentioned it. I'm big on Miles Sanders. I'm going to go Miles Sanders. I think he's going to have a massive camp. He's going to look very different from what we saw last year. And I think he's going to end up being the MVP of camp on the offense.
Okay. I think Leggett will get a lot of the love. I'm not going to pick him as my stud just because he's
Mm-hmm.
the rookie. He's a physical freak. It's an
Yep.
obvious kind of choice.
It'd be a good, if it happens, it'd be great though.
Yeah, but every year I feel like, especially with, I mean, the guy looks like he was built in a lab.
Carved out of granite. Yeah.
I mean, dude is massive. But with that being said, my stud, honestly, I think it's going to be Bryce Young.
Oh,
I
okay.
think people are going to come out, and this may be just the beat writers and everything, but everybody's going to be like, oh, he looks so much different. He has a lot more zip on the ball. He seems to be going at it. I think that there's going to be a lot of love and a lot of feeling good about him coming out of training camp.
That would be great. Honestly, I didn't even think about him as my potential stud. I think I just assume he's going to come in looking good
Yeah.
because I mean he even looked good last camp. I mean, yeah, there were some issues and he didn't look good in the preseason games really, but I do hope that he comes in looking like a different guy for sure. All right, dud. Who's your
But
dud
I'm
for
going to
camp?
shock some people. I think there's going to be questions around Shaq Thompson.
Oh,
He spent all last year on the IR. He's getting over 30. He's going to be a pinnacle to this defense, but with the the Travion Walker, am I saying his name right? I think that's his
yeah,
name.
I believe
Okay.
so. Yeah,
I think with him behind him, who has that speed, that burst of a
Trevin Walker.
Trevin,
Sorry.
sorry,
Yeah.
um, a young guy. I think there's going to be questions about Shaq Thompson if he's going to be on this team in the future after this year.
I hope that's not the case.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing on my
I could see it.
Nostradamus.
Coming off an injury, getting older, young guy right behind him. Unfortunately could see it. Mine's going to kind of be a bummer too. I think it's going to be Jadeveon Clowney. I worry about him, coming in and being ready to go right away. Uh,
Okay.
I think there's been some question of his effort at times in the NFL. He did not show up to the voluntary mini camp until I
Hey,
think
he
very
signed
very
early
late,
though. I
right?
mean, that he's not used to that.
But he, still would have liked to have been there the whole time. Um, so I hope I'm wrong, but Jadeveon Clowney is going to kind of be my prediction to maybe not be as uh, positive as we hope right off the bat.
Hmm.
I think Jadeveon Clowney is what he is. I think he's a 7 to 9 sack guy who's going to be He's going to have some flash plays, but overall, I think we might be disappointed. So I hope I'm wrong.
Yep.
Yep. Cuts. Let's give a couple of cuts that we think. I'm going to go ahead and start off with Ian Thomas. I think he's gone.
I
You
was honestly gonna say Ian Thomas. I think that is the biggest name that I could put out there.
yeah, I think he's out. Um, Terrace Marshall, I think, is a real possibility.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
I do too.
yeah. And by the way, we know like guys like David Moore and,
Yeah, we're trying to pick guys that are
yeah,
maybe a little bit of a shock.
yeah, guys that have been starters here.
Yeah.
Troy Hill, I think, is a possibility.
I
As shallow as our cornerback room is, I think if they bring in another guy, another couple of guys, maybe even, then Troy Hill, because Troy Hill is one of those guys where, again, he has some flashes here and there, but overall consistency wise, not great.
I will go DJ Johnson.
Ooh, so early.
So early, third round pick last year, but
Yeah,
I could see that Morgan was like, "Hey, you know what? I didn't draft him. I didn't want him." And from accounts, it doesn't seem like he wanted him.
yeah. I think you could see a lot of that. I could see you could see DJ Johnson. You could see like someone like Chandler Zavala, right?
Oh
Just these
yeah,
guys that were drafted by the previous regime, that just have not shown anything. And you could throw Terrace Marshall in that group, right? Like he's one
yeah.
of those guys.
Chandler
Um,
Savala, I haven't even mentioned or thought about him and he was such a sneaky pick to be a stud
mhm,
from across the league, and
yeah,
he just looked like blah.
yeah. Barno, I think another guy
Yeah.
that you could throw into that list. So there are a lot of guys, unfortunately. And then of course Eddie P is going to be my big pick for special teams, the guy that is going to get cut. So all right, well, let's take a quick break, and then we're gonna come back and we'll do one more thing.
Yes. All right, and we are back. We are just trying to get this situated here. We are gonna try to keep track of this during training camp. It's our training camp confidence stock exchange. So we're going to go with players and positions and kind of go with our confidence stock. You know, how confident are you that they're going to have a good season, that they're performing, they're doing well. So I'm going to start it off with Bryce Young. Um,
And by the way, this is like just a 1 to 10
oh
rating.
yes,
We're call it $1 to $10, right? $10 is Patrick Mahomes, and $1 is
let's not put Patrick Mahomes on the list because
Andy Dalton,
let
or not Andy Dalton, Sam Darnold Jets, right? Like that, just as a range. Um, all right, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so Bryce Young ended the season better than it started, but still didn't give a lot of confidence. That being said, I'm not gonna go 1 or 2. I'm willing to go 2 or 3.
That's fairly low.
That's low, but
But you are saying this is the confidence that you have in him, right? This is the
entering training
confidence
camp. I
that we
have to
have in
see
him. Yeah,
something because
yeah,
last year just left a bad taste in my mouth. I do have a good bit of confidence that a lot of it was other issues besides him.
yeah.
But right now, I'm starting him low. I'm buying
I,
him
I,
low.
I mean, I, I think that you're gonna get some flack for that. I would probably go like $4, but it feels right? It feels like the range. And by the way, when you look at some of these QB rankings that that NFL.com, some of these other sites are putting out, like he's like 36th. Like he's
Yeah.
not even ranked among the top 32. So I don't think that that's crazy. And yeah, I'll kind of just we'll meet in the middle at like 3.5 there.
Yep. That's what I put. 3.5.
All right, cool.
All right. Our next group. It's a group because you can't. It's so hard on these. O line.
Yeah, O line is my confidence is fairly strong for this. They put a lot of money into the O line in the offseason. The guys that are returning outside of Icky, are pretty strong players, and we hope that Icky gets there, right? So I'm gonna go like a 6 for O line. I feel pretty good about them
Yeah,
with room to grow.
I was literally gonna say 6. That was off already set up in my head. So I think we're sitting exactly the same thought process. I think Icky can make the group go down, and I think
Mhm.
Icky can make the group go up.
Yeah.
Um,
And again, this is confidence. Like it would be difficult to go into this and say that we're at an 8 when
oh,
these guys haven't
100%.
played together. Icky is a big question mark, regardless of how much you like him. You have to say he's a question mark based on what happened last year. And even in his rookie year, like he looked good, but he didn't look great. Um, Moton's really the only guy that I would even put at that, higher tier. You've got Corbett, with a new position or a position he hasn't played a ton of. So I think 6 is a pretty good rating there. Let's go on the other side, D line. How you feeling about these guys?
Okay, so here I did write D line here, so I need to talk to you. Are we talking about the 3-4 line of Derek Brown,
Let's
Ashawn
call it
Robinson,
let's call it pass rushers. Let's call it pass rushers.
pass rushers? Okay, let's
Yeah, let's change it to pass
completely
rushers.
different
Yeah,
scale.
yeah,
That's why I
yeah,
wanted to clarify. So
yeah. Because again, when you're in the 3-4, it's just different, right?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
for pass rushers, DJ Wanham, Jadavian. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 3 again.
I think I'm gonna go 3 as well. I'm really worried about it. And again, the depth is just not there.
There's no
Um,
depth. I mean, and you have 2 question marks as your starters, as Clowney
Really,
and
you do. I mean, and again, like Clowney, it feels okay, but um, I think I would go 3 there. Let's move on to maybe somebody a little higher.
Xavier Leggett.
Okay.
Um, I went first last time, so you could go this time.
Okay, I'll go with a solid 5 on him. Again, I feel pretty good about him. He's a kind of a 1 year wonder in college, so you hope that that can continue to grow. But he seems to have all the skills, and he has the body, and he's got the size and the speed. He's got everything you would want. Um, so I'm gonna start off with a 5 and hope that by the end of camp it's like an 8.
Okay, so it's gonna be shocking, but I have a 7 on him.
Wow, you are
A-
high on him.
And this is a confidence stock, so it can go down. But my stock has risen a lot since draft day on him, mostly because I've watched more film on him. I
Hmm.
watched him. I watched on YouTube, or not YouTube, Twitter, how he was working out, calling Bryce Young
Hmm.
right after the draft. It raised his stock a lot in my eyes. So I put him at a 7 because he seems to want it and want it bad. And with that kind of mindset, he has the physical attributes to do it. So that's why he's high on mine.
Yeah, like as a person, he's a 10. Right? He's such a cool guy. Like I really like him. I like his personality. I think he's gonna be a really hard worker. I might be too low on him, but we'll meet in the middle at a 6, and we'll hope that it goes up from there. Let's move on to the maybe the opposite side of the coin here. TMJ. How you feeling about him?
2. And he's got
Yeah,
a toot mostly because of the simple fact that supposedly he looks physically unnervingly strong right now.
yeah.
People are saying.
Let's meet at a 1.5. I'm at as low as you can go on TMJ. Again, with hope that he can prove me wrong, but I feel like this is just one of those guys that's going to kind of disappear, and I hate it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I see that.
who's next?
JC Horn.
Yeah, this is a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fun one. So JC, again, from a skill standpoint, you would put him right up there at as high as you can go. But and again, we're looking at training camp here. I think I'm gonna go 7 on JC. I'm gonna go high. Again, the only concern with him is injury, but it's a massive concern.
It,
But in terms of training camp, like I think he'll get through training camp, so I'm gonna go 7.
okay, so Without the injury concern, I go 8.5.
Yeah.
8.5. With the injury concern, he goes down to a 5 in my books. He
Okay.
goes down a good bit. And it's not just, in the game. He's been injured in training camps. He's been injured all the
Hmm.
time. So I just can't, good
The
faith.
first time he misses a practice due to, a sore hamstring or, a calf or something, like he immediately goes down to a 2. Like you just can't do it,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And he's, by the way, he's entering that time now where he's looking at contract extension
Yeah. I
next year.
mean,
So big year for him. Huge year for him.
I had him at a 5. You had him at a
7. So we'll go with a 6.
6. Okay.
Yep. All right, moving on to back to the offensive side of the ball here. Deontay Johnson.
Deontay Johnson, I'm going to go 6. The more and more I watched him, the more I read about him. Hopefully his head case doesn't come here, but his talent, I think, is a 6. I'm going to go with 6 right now. It could go higher, too, being the guy here, but...
I'm going super high on him. I
Ooh.
really, really like Deontay Johnson. I'm gonna go 8. I think talent wise, he is really, really good. Um, there was a lot of stuff going on with that Steelers team last year. He was not the only wide receiver to kind of quit on the field a few times. But I don't like the fact that he did that.
Yeah.
The fact that he has it in him, that is concerning. But yeah, I'm hoping to change the scenery. And he was, a pretty good soldier, it seemed like, for the first couple of years he was there. So I'm hoping that we get the guy that's, that ready to come out here. And by the way, he's on a 1-year deal basically. So he also is looking for that big payday. I think he's going to come in motivated, ready to show what he can do. And if he can be the guy that can claim that he elevated Bryce Young, that's going to earn him a lot of money next year. So I'm going pretty high on him.
Nice. Okay, so we're going to meet in the middle again. 7.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Moving on to your favorite player, Ian Thomas. I'm going to start him off with a... I know you're going to be a 0 negative number or something like that. With that being said, I'm going to rate him on his production. He's a good blocker. He is what he is. I don't think he'll ever be a receiving tight end, but I think he's a solid backup tight end, blocking tight end. I'm putting a 3 on him.
I'll surprise you a bit and go with a 2. Like, he, I don't think he's going to make the team. I don't like him. I don't think he's a good player. I do think he is a average blocker. I don't think he's that above average. I don't know where that comes from. But I think he's an average blocker. That gives him a 2. I think he's a well below average pass catcher, route runner, all the things that you need from a tight end in 2024. You know what? No, I'm giving him a 1. Take it down. Giving him a 1. Nah, take everything I said away. I just don't like Ian Thomas. I give him a 1.
Meet in the middle. I'll just put it as a 2 instead of 2.25.
All right, let's move on to Chuba. Chuba Hubbard.
Chuba!
Chuba, another guy, not drafted by this regime. Chuba's a couple of regimes ago at this point. 3 if you count Steve Wilkes. But, I'm going with a 5 on Chuba. I think Chuba is a solid RB2 in the league. And he may end up being the starter. Very, very, I think he's probably, as you said, likely to be the starter when the season starts. But I think Chuba does have a ceiling that is a little lower than the other guys on the roster at that position. So I'm going to go 5.
You're going to go 5. I am going to go 6.5. I already had it in my head. Sorry. Otherwise, I'll do it
And
evenly.
now you're going to have to do math.
I know. It's that
It's like
0.25 again.
5.75.
Yeah. But he looked good. He's looked good when he gets consistent carries. Last year, he had 3.8 yards per carry. I mean, and that was rough. That beginning was rough. He really didn't play.
But again, like, the offensive line was terrible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he was making 3.8 yards per carry. with no
That's
motions.
which is
With
not
the,
good.
I mean,
Under 4 yards of carry in the NFL is not good.
how many?
That's not what you want.
I mean, everyone wants
I mean,
5 yards per.
no, but like 4.5, I think is kind of the standard. Like that, if you're there, you're feeling okay.
Okay, I will look this up, and I am gonna take a second pause. All right, my fault. It is a little less than average. Christian McCaffrey had 5.2.
But again, like the offensive line was so bad.
So
I'm
bad.
not gonna knock him for a 3.8, but I do think again, I just don't think his ceiling is, he doesn't have a 5.5 yard per carry average ceiling, right? He doesn't have the upper limit of running back.
He's not an elite running back, and I think
Right.
that's one thing we're gonna have to realize is, in our Panther history, we had Christian McCaffrey, we had D'Angelo Williams, we had Jonathan Stewart. I mean, they may have not technically been all elite at all the times, but they were always that top 5, top 10 running backs in the league, and
Right. They had very high ceilings, all of
yeah.
them. Very high ceilings. And I'm thinking that Jonathan Brooks is that type of guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not this year because he's coming off the injury, and it always seems to take a year off the ACL. But Chuba, I like Chuba. Again, I think he's a very solid RB2. I think he'll be in the league a long time. He may be a Panther for a long time, but I just don't know that he's the guy that I would feel happy about getting out there 17 games a year, getting 15 to 20 carries a game. I don't think you're getting 1,000 yard season from Chuba.
He almost had one last year,
Yeah, almost,
and he
almost.
didn't start a lot of games.
I know. Okay, I agree to disagree.
Okay,
I'm
I'm
going
just calling it
five.
out. I'm just calling it out.
I'm going five because I think he is middle of the road.
So, what number did I say?
You said 6.5.
Oh yeah, 5. Okay.
5.75 would be the average.
All right, we're doing
So
crazy numbers.
let's end it up here with Miles Sanders. Again, we'll add some guys as we go through training camp here.
Like all of a sudden,
Um,
someone can pop off, and
yeah, yeah. Jatavion Sanders might end up on the next episode with an 8. Who knows?
yeah.
But Miles Sanders, I added him here last. Again, I feel I'm going to put him at a 5 as well. I think he and Chuba are right there together, and we'll see what happens.
And I'm doing a 3. I think without the excellent blocking of the Philadelphia Eagles,
Mm-hmm.
that had the best O line when he played there, I think he showed that he didn't have it. Without that blocking that can get him to the second level on his own, he doesn't have it. So I went 3.
I can't fault it. I can't fault it.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is confident. This is our personal confidence in these guys. I mean,
Yeah. I think
obviously,
we're fairly close on most of these.
yeah. I
You
mean, I
know.
feel like this is just for us and fun and everything else, and everybody else can put in your confidence trackers and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I like I think it's going to be a fun training camp. Again, this is a team that is uh, rebuilding. They're kind of starting from scratch again. 2-15 last year, nowhere to go but up. Uh, what's your confidence just overall for the season? Like just right now, 1 to 10. Where are you putting your confidence for the season?
I am putting my confidence on the season. I guess I need to ask the question, what do you mean by confidence? Do I
Just
think
just how do you feel that
is this team going to be better?
I
Yes.
want to know what are you going to feel? What do you think you're going to feel at the end of the season on a scale of 1 to 10 about how the season went?
I'm going to say 7.
Okay, so you're pretty high.
I'm pretty high. And guys, I'm not thinking playoffs. I am thinking 5-6 wins. And this is right now. 5-6 wins. But I'm hoping I see Bryce Young look better. I'm hoping Leggett shows off. I'm hoping that the running team backs go well. I'm hoping the defense doesn't take as big a step back as they can because they lost a lot of pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say probably a 5 or 6 for me. I'll go 6, just because I kind of feel the same way as you do. I feel like 5 to 7 wins is probably the max that we're going to see this year. But I'd be okay with that as long as I see the growth. I see Bryce, you know, look like he could be the franchise guy instead of looking nothing like the franchise guy last year. And I know you can go to YouTube and some guys are putting out these throws that he had that were almost all incomplete, but a lot of that was on the receivers. But if your highlight reel shows, 70% incomplete passes, I'm sorry, like that doesn't impress me that much.
I mean,
Okay, it just doesn't. Throw a more catchable ball,
well, I
right?
think it's well, we'll see.
We'll see.
That's
We'll
yeah.
see. But yeah, I'm gonna go 6. So well, that's pretty high confidence. 6.5. That's the second highest of anything we have on this list.
That
So,
really is.
so
But
maybe
but I
we're
think we also did a curve on that
yeah.
one because
True.
neither
True.
one of us are thinking playoffs. We're
Yeah.
not
I mean,
thinking
a normal season you would say is 7. You would be thinking, 12 wins, right?
yeah playoffs.
Right.
Playoffs.
Playoffs. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for our training camp preview
Yeah, we want to thank everyone for listening. If you like the show, please let your friends know. Please follow us on at MeowMix Podcast. Oh God, I
on
screw.
X.
Oh
On
yeah, I
on
am
X.
brutal. Email us at mailbag@meowmixpodcast.com. Follow us on Twitter or X, whatever they want to call that thing in now at MeowMix Podcast. Man, I am just all flustered down.
Listen, guys, it's training camp for us too. Okay, we'll get better. We'll get better as
I'll
this goes
stretch
along.
next time.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, we'll be back in a few days, probably early next week, to talk about the first few days of training camp. I might be heading out on Saturday for the Back Together Saturday. I do have tickets.
What's it back together Saturday?
So you have to get tickets now for training camp because
Mm-hmm.
they're holding it here and there's limited spots. They're free. But yeah, Back Together Saturday is kind of like they're held there. I think it's at the stadium. There's going to be the practice. It's kind of like Fan Fest, but it's in the morning.
Oh,
And yeah, and it's not quite as festival-ishy as Fan Fest, but the cheerleaders will be there. They'll be doing little games and stuff. It'd be a kind of a fun thing.
oh, cool.
So
Yeah, I knew Fan
I may
Fest
go
is
out there.
going to be in Clemson this year, so
FanFest in Clemson this year. Yep. So you can check the website if you guys want to try to get tickets for any of the training camp sessions. I've noticed that if you check a few times throughout the day or a couple of days, the tickets will kind of pop up here and there. So people are just canceling or whatever. As of now, I think most things are sold out, but who knows? They may come back. So, but until then, everybody stay safe out there and keep pounding.